meeting to order. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the July 28th meeting?
I move to accept the minutes.
Second by Cale, all in favor? Consent agenda. We need permission for clerk to pay insurance at time of billing, permission for clerk to pay utilities at time of billing, permission for clerk to pay utility incentives before the 25th of the month, permission for clerk to pay theater bills when due, permission for clerk to pay payment service network bills when due, and permission for clerk to pay city attorney bills when due.
So moved.
Moved by Dara,
Second.
second by Larry, all in favor? Okay. Sheriff report. New business, Ross Manufacturing, you're up.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me address you tonight. I'm going to give you some photos of the storage container that we have. Oops, sorry. Is there anybody else? Do you have a meeting for? Oh. We're here to address, I thank you for listening to us, and since I'm not a politician, we kind of wrote a little bit of a spiel, so to speak. And this is to the city council. Ross Manufacturing has been a business since 1996. We are proud to be a part of St. Francis community. We acknowledge that we are not currently in compliance with the city code 4-1205 as it pertains to the use of storage containers. First, we would like to thank the city council members for granting us a 6-month extension on the deadline. This time has been extremely helpful as we continue to grow and adjust the needs of our business. Over the past 24 months, Ross Manufacturing has invested over $300,000 in new equipment to expand our capabilities. This investment has directly resulted in the hiring of 2 additional employees, contributing to both our productivity and the local economy. As a result of this growth, our current facility is nearly at full capacity. The storage container in question is essential for holding materials that we cannot currently accommodate inside the building. These materials are critical to our operation and continue to serve, so that we can continue to serve our customers. We respectfully request the city council consider bringing to the floor a vote to amend the current ordinance to allow for the use of storage containers in commercially zoned areas within the city of St. Francis. If amending the ordinance is not feasible at this time, we would also kindly ask the council to consider granting Ross Manufacturing a variance. This would allow us the necessary time to plan, construct an additional building on our property to house the materials currently stored in the container. This solution would help both our short-term and operational needs and our long-term growth. We appreciate your time and understanding and continue to support your local businesses. Does anyone have any questions?
Were you thinking about the VersaTube option still?
We've talked about that. Okay, so we spend $15,000 on a VersaTube with the concrete. So that's $15,000 down the tube, so to speak, for hopefully maybe 5 years down the road, when we can afford, we get things rolling and we can afford to put up, we're talking about it like a 60 by 100. And the other thing about that building is if we put up a big building, we're gonna require at least 8 inches thick of concrete, so that when we move machines in of 14,000 pounds or greater, the concrete floor can withstand that. So by putting that in, all we would end up doing is putting it in for temporary time,
You'd have to move.
tearing it back out,
Yeah,
and then I don't know what we do with it. And it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's not money well spent
yeah,
from an economic standpoint from our side of it.
right. Makes sense.
I guess one of the questions I've got, is there anything we can do to mitigate this? I know we've had this conversation multiple times and everything. Is there anything we can do from our side of things to allow them to keep the storage container? I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's clear back by the alley. I don't know, that's still my take on things, guys, and I don't agree with where we're at on this thing right now. I still think commercial is important to the city. And I just don't see any issues on down the road with, I've had people say, well, they're gonna put all kinds of storage units on Main Street. There's no room to put anything on Main Street.
We're not interested, it's not a long-term solution for us. But where we're at right now, say we end up doing, you guys decide no, we're gonna probably take it up to where it's past south of the recycling center. And then every day, we're gonna probably have to go up and get stuff. The lengths of this material is anywhere from 12 to 20 foot. So it's not like throwing it in the back of a pickup. We're gonna bring it down in a trailer of course, then when the weather gets bad, that's one nice thing about the container. If the weather gets bad, we do a little bit of snow blowing and we're right back there to it, and we can get our materials from it. And so I guess I'm pleading our case, and I hope you guys would understand where we're coming from, and as a business here in this town, and that we're looking for your help also.
What kind of timeline was you thinking?
Well, I hope to have everything squared away like in 5 years, but I don't have a crystal ball. I
Right.
don't know where the economy's going. Right now, we're picking up business from, SurePoint Ag has been a big one for us. Roberts Pump and Supply, Preferred Pump, Live Wire Fencing out of Culberson, and every day I'm looking for another business to try to sell our goods to them. That's something that we can make. We have the equipment now, and as we grow, we'll be hiring more people. It's just that simple. You can only do so much with the workforce you got. But that's where we're at. Financially, taking on that other debt here 24 months ago puts us in a situation that, we're cash flowing that payment, but we're not exceeding it that much right at the moment. So until we can build more and get things rolling, that's really where we're at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with
fair.
Larry on this one too.
If there's no more questions, I'll be happy to answer whenever, but if there isn't any more, I thank you for your time, and I hope you will heartfully consider it.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, John, appreciate it.
You bet.
One of the things I wanted to bring up, I got to looking at this a little bit after we had the last meeting, and maybe I need some clarification on this, but in one section of the minutes, the council approved it, and then 2 weeks later, when they had the meeting, if I'm reading this right, there was an ordinance that went totally opposite of what the council had said.
Oh, you mean from 2015 or whenever it
2011,
was?
I think.
2011?
And those people aren't here to.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
don't know.
I've heard some
So
stories.
does that mean that the decision was made in executive session and there's no public discussion on it? Back in
I don't know.
2011?
There's nothing documented in that, so we
Right.
don't know what.
But it was voted on in 2011 to approve
the current.
Yeah,
it to be prohibited, and then when they recodified in 2015, and the whole council took the thing and they read through it and went through the whole recodification process in 2015, they again chose to keep that ordinance. So, I mean, I don't know, I agree with what you said. I don't know where
Yeah,
the
it's-
switch,
that,
I don't know where the switch came in.
that's really hazy to me.
I don't know where the switch came in, but that was the ordinance that they signed, and then when they did the recodification in 2015,
Yeah.
they went through it and they
We have-
recodified it.
We have no way to go back and find out why it changed in a 2-week time period.
And part of our concern is people came to the council and we've told them no, and they've incurred additional costs to do other things, and so
Well, and
we,
what-
we need to enforce the ordinance as well.
yeah, I understand you force an ordinance, but like I laid it out, it's up to you, one of the council members, to bring a vote to the floor to change the ordinance, or at the very least, if we could have a variance for a time period, so that we have time to recoup, so to speak, and keep it going. But we'll respect whatever your decisions are, but I hope you understand where we're at.
I think the post office is gonna have some troubles too, I think, getting theirs taken care of. I heard that someone in DC is getting involved, so that could be interesting.
How that would work out, maybe that's federal.
Yeah,
If it's federal, if it's post office, that's,
federal.
it's supremacy clause, that will rule. Cause it wasn't sent to the post office, it was sent to the owner of the property, who is not the government, correct?
Correct, you're saying that owner.
But the owner, the US government does not own the property,
No,
they're
they lease it.
leasing it,
They
okay.
lease it, though, right? Yeah.
My 2 cents is I'd like to have further discussion and actually see a vote on this. I guess I kinda overlooked that at the last meeting. I didn't realize that we were just going ahead with it.
Well, it was brought up, when I brought up is that we were gonna favoritize one business over this. And myself, I'm looking at this, I'm new on here, so I'm bringing something new to the floor. I'm not doing this for one business, I'm
Right.
doing this for everybody, every business, cause I'm new to this. And so, my vote is, I prefer to change the ordinance and put it back to commercial. I've said this routinely. And so it's not just because of Rosser or any of them, it's because of what I think should be on commercial property.
Yeah, if we're worried about a residents trying to do it, all we gotta do is say it's commercial only. And we could even say commercial, anything zone commercial as of today's date or whatever date, it's okay.
But then there's residential areas that already have a commercial variance. So you're saying it's okay for those residents, but it's not okay for the other
No,
residences.
we can define that, we could say commercial only, as of this date, there's no residential that's commercial only, right? Like they're usually split, residential, commercial, right?
I mean, unless there's a house that's in an exclusively residential area and they request a variance.
But as of
Be
today's
rezoned.
date,
Request,
they'd still have
Sorry?
to-
they'd still have to request.
They wouldn't be allowed to do that, basically, the container, because we're saying as of this date, there is no,
Right, but the ones that have
Existing
already
yeah, existing
been
commercial
rezoned
only.
as commercial in a residential neighborhood would still be able to do it.
Can't we change that with the ordinance?
Can't you change what?
If it is residential, commercial, just state that,
We're saying commercial only,
commercial only.
so anything existing today is commercial only.
You'd have to go, I mean, we'd have to make
We'd
sure
have
that,
to-
we'd have to make sure that their variance, that what the language was, that
Yeah.
it will be zoned as resident, that they would have an exception for residential commercial and not be rezoned as commercial. I mean,
Right.
we'd have to go back and make sure, I mean, for every one that's had a variance, we would have to make sure that that was the language. Because anyone who requested to be commercial and they put it to commercial rather than residential commercial, they would be able to do it. I mean, I guess I don't know if you guys want to define that where the storage containers could be, rather than in zones they're allowed.
Are you saying that,
There's commercial properties in the middle of a residential block,
Right.
Correct, so
so,
they would have to be
so that's
allowed.
what they're saying.
there's commercial only in the middle of a residential block somewhere?
They're asking for a variance for their one location for a temporary use until they can get something built. Is there a reason that we couldn't grant some sort of temporary variance to them and not have to change the ordinance?
In the post office? Isn't that gonna be an issue too?
If the if the post office is
No.
if it's a federal issue, then we can't touch it. It's the same. It goes back to the immigration issue. If it's a federal thing, city can't regulate federal. If it's the owner who put it, if the owner has it there, we can have it out. If it's the post office, we can't. I mean, it wouldn't really be a variance, it would just be an extension, but I mean, you'd have to put a deadline on when they would have to do it. I mean, my understanding is that it was supposed to be temporary back when it went in 2011.
That's my understanding too, but I didn't, that was Gordon Ross, and he's the one that talked to the council then, so I can't speak for him or what council members were on the board
Right.
at that time.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at the
Yeah,
mercy of the minutes, and there's nothing, the minutes say one thing, and then the ordinance says something
Yeah.
different, and we're sitting here going, we don't know.
And we have to address the situation that we have right now. What happened in the past happened, what's on the books is on the books. But we have to fix what's there in some shape or form.
Is it gonna be under a foundation like the ordinance says?
If we were gonna change it,
Yeah.
cause that was initially what was discussed, right? Was a foundation.
Right.
Are you asking if this one has a foundation?
I know it doesn't.
This one does not.
It is not.
But
Would you be able to put it on a foundation?
Yeah, we could pour a 4-inch slab and that wouldn't cost a whole lot, but it's still gonna be an expense. But let me ask you this, what good would a foundation be other than it's skirting the law? That thing already isn't going nowhere, it hasn't gone anywhere since we got it. That makes it not a safety risk. And I've given you pictures, is it the most attractive building or shed in St. Francis? No. Is it the worst? No. But if that's what you guys decide, we'll spend the money to do that.
I mean, these containers are already on a heavy steel frame. I don't see the point
Yeah,
of
I was
foundation.
gonna say, I've heard so many times, they want to put something like this on a foundation, it's built on a foundation, it is built by a foundation, there is,
They're built to be moved. They're not built to be on.
That's right.
what's that?
They're built to be moved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them built to be a permanent structure.
Well, what's the point of, if it's not going anywhere, trying to raise it up, spend all that money, and
I
then,
mean, you could anchor it if we're that worried on 4 points like
I
a
mean,
trailer
what
house.
good's a foundation gonna do? It's not going anywhere.
That's the
Foundation
point.
won't
It's
help
not
it.
going anywhere.
I think that's where we
I
all
think
kinda
the
disagree on
purpose
this.
of the foundation is probably to where it's affixed to the real estate, that it becomes real property to where it is an actual structure. Or if it's movable, then it's not. I think that's where probably that was put into place.
And
That
if
was
this is a
discussed.
tax deal, taxes
I'm just
on-
saying that's what was
But-
before.
anything that's on a structure can be taxed, anything movable can't be taxed. I'd be fine paying sales tax or property tax on it, if that's what it amounts to.
And I'm just going back from what was
Yep.
discussed in whatever,
Whatever,
yeah.
No,
That it
that's
said it
fine.
had to be put on a permanent foundation. That's my only thinking, is that was the logic, that it would be an actual real property as opposed to personal property.
You decide. And we'll get back to you. I mean, it's in, like I said, it's in your hands, and we respectfully leave it in your hands, cause I think, yeah, it's a valid topic, and it's a city topic, so it's up to our council members to decide.
I'd like to just find a way to give him variance for the way it is for a time set, and then re-look at it after the time that we give him. Give him time to find a timeline that we can look at, and at the end of that timeline, look, see if we need to extend the variance.
Times two, consider that.
That works too.
What was that, kid?
That works too, I guess.
Yeah, if you want a
It's along
timeline,
the same, yeah,
and
it's
if-
along the same.
yeah, you want a timeline, that gives you a timeline, all we can do is look at it again, see if we've got any more problems with it, if there's no more problems, extend it. Or if he's ready to move on, we're good.
Like I said, it's not a permanent solution, because right now, we already have an issue with our flat metal. We're taking flat metal in and out of the shop every day so that we can work in there. So, flat metal isn't gonna fit in that container, but long bars, tubing, rods, all of that long, thinner stuff goes in there really nice. And it stores great, those things don't really have much dust in them, and they don't have any rain intrusion in them either.
What do you think the first timeline would be good to see where you're at?
Well, like I said, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah,
I hope, this may be too long for you, but I hope in like 5 years or before, we can get this thing rolling. And maybe in 2 years we can do it.
I
I
was gonna say,
don't know.
can we say a two year and look at it again, see where we're at?
Or
Yep.
request that you come in yearly, once a year, at least let us know, give you,
Yeah.
That
and
would
give us a status
That
update
would be
yearly.
great.
One question I know in the discussion from before, they had mentioned painting it the same color as the commercial business. I don't know if that's something that, where it wouldn't stick out maybe as,
The only thing I'd see on that is if we did it yearly, you'd have to understand that whenever you come in, things change, you may end up having to move it.
Yep. And
Yeah.
we can always come back to what I just discussed today also. So I also have those options too.
Yep.
So,
What's your gut feeling on, and I realize that you don't have a crystal ball, but on putting up another building?
dollar-wise,
No, when,
When?
time-wise.
well,
You
like I
said
said, I
5
hope in
years.
5 years we can do
Hopefully.
that. And
That's what
I've
I
got,
said.
Brock is actually figuring me out the building right now. So I even know what I'm up against.
Yeah.
But first thing we gotta do is, we gotta take care of the bank and what we got.
Yeah.
And then we've got to see the cash flow come in to be able to service the rest of that note for the remaining 8 years.
Sure.
And then probably another one or reconsolidate all of it.
And we're just gonna have to take the others that are around on the same basis. We're gonna have to look at them, see what they are, see if we need to do a variance or if we need to have them moved. I think it's gonna have to be a case-by-case situation, and I know there's no good way of doing that, but just the way,
Well, it sounds like the only other one would be the counties, right? If the postal is no issue. And maybe they can use theirs, maybe they
Wasn't
can.
there one other one?
Oh, yeah.
and by then, maybe we can figure out a way to change the ordinance, cause I'm ready for changing the ordinance, but at least this'll give a variance, get him to where he's in,
Yeah.
and, it'll give us time to get somewhere.
Just one clarification, Lauren, if you've got a property that's residential, commercial, it doesn't switch from residential to commercial, does it? It can be
There
either
are
or.
zones that are commercial only, residential only, and residential/commercial. So it can be zoned for whatever. So it can have a multitude. There are certain businesses in residential areas which have requested a variance to be commercial. And so it will depend on what the language was when that variance was approved as to whether it was changed to be zoned, whether that was a variance to be commercial or whether that was a variance to be commercial residential. Because I know that there's somebody who was like running a beauty shop out of their house, that would be residential/commercial. But at the point where there's a daycare in the middle of a otherwise residential block, that may not be residential commercial. That may be exclusively commercial. It would depend on the language for each variance when it was voted on. And so that,
But most of them, when they were voted on, and they even had to sign forms that they went around to the neighbors to get the variance to become commercial. They had to say what they were doing in there. So if it was for a daycare or for a beauty salon, as you were asking, I don't think they'd be wanting to put storage containers next door to them. And so I don't
But-
think that would be practical.
What are you saying about that?
are you,
Practical, not they can
you're saying going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying the ones that have already been done.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones whenever they went to get their variance for that, they had to state what they were doing for that.
Right, but they had to
business.
state what they were doing for the business. They didn't have to state what equipment or facilities they were putting in. They just had to state what they were doing. And so if it was signed off that this could be commercial, and the way that it was vocalized and voted on was to rezone it from residential to commercial, or to grant this variance to be commercial and not residential commercial, then that is an exclusively commercial zoned.
And I think the wording on the ones that we had when I did them before said that it did not rezone the property. It was for this owner only, didn't follow the property, and then it wasn't being rezoned. I could find that and get it to the next meeting so you can see how they were worded. At least all of them that were done when I was, since
Okay.
I've been here.
I mean, I don't.
We'd have to, yeah.
Wouldn't that come back to giving us the authority to
Yeah.
decide whether or not,
That's what
I
I'm,
could do something else?
that's what I'm trying to,
yeah?
I guess
know
my,
where
my,
you're
my,
going with
my
this.
question, I guess, would be if the council is dead set on changing the ordinance, why would you not just define where they can be?
Yeah.
Rather than
Which is
saying
what-
commercial this or not, I mean, rather than saying the zoning, it can be not on the building fronts, I mean, if you want it on Main Street by the alleys,
But it sounds like the simplest is we can give them, if they can maybe give us a written proposal asking, for a certain amount of time,
for the variance.
for the, just give them an extension for the one, then to
That'd take
change
care of the
everything.
short-term thing.
Yeah, why don't we do that for now?
And that'll give us time to narrow down all the other.
Do we need a motion for that?
yes.
Make the variance?
And I think in this case it's an exception, because a variance is changing it. This is just giving them an extension of time to rectify so you'll want to actually, we're not accepting them because we're doing it, so you'll just want to give them an extension of time.
And
to-
check in yearly with that, to check back in a year, just to touch base to see where you guys are at, just to give us an update.
Yep.
Will that work?
Just say the August first meeting, whenever that would happen to be in 2026.
I'll second.
Motion.
The motion is to give them an exception.
Give the exception or?
An extension.
Extension.
uh,
Extension.
An extension of time to,
What time?
To come back.
What date?
August first.
He said August first,
Okay.
He said it, but he didn't.
Review
Oh,
it
sorry,
again.
yeah. One of the August meetings, how will that work?
The
Either the first or
First
second?
August
Yeah,
meeting of
August meeting.
2026.
Okay, moved by Kale, second by Larry, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Very much.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Okay, building permits.
Just the two? You said two, Dan?
I think so.
One's already out. Was it the
you have a chance to look at it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Uniform public defense plans.
That we pass every year in order to adopt those.
Is there a motion to,
Does that require a vote? Everybody vote?
Yes, it's an ordinance.
It's a roll call.
moved by Kale to accept ordinance 653, second by Dara, roll call, Bud? Yes. Kale, yes.
Yes.
Larry, yes.
Yes.
Dara, yes. Justin, all right. Ordinance 654, standard traffic ordinance. Is there a motion to approve that?
Same thing like we do.
We do it every year.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Kale, second by Larry. Bud, yes. Kale, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Larry,
Yes.
Dara, yes. And Justin, yes. Okay.
And Amanda, you have them there to sign.
Okay. Old business solar panels.
I think it's about this.
You guys all have, you should all have this.
Yeah.
I went ahead and printed it for everybody. He did wanna do a Teams meeting, but as we know, the internet back here doesn't do great with that, so, when we call him, he's gonna go through this. I figured this would be the easiest way. And then he also sent, behind that is a House bill, he also sent, I don't know if he's gonna reference that at all, but I printed it for you guys as well.
We need these.
Hello, this is Darren Prince.
Hey Darren, this is the city of St. Francis, how are you?
I am good. How are you folks doing tonight?
We are well, thank you.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I can. Do you just want me to jump right in?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I take it everybody has the PowerPoint I sent on distributed generation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, alright, so I'll just jump right into this. Basically, I'm just gonna kinda go through the PowerPoint and if anybody has any questions for me, just stop me and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. But basically what, I'm here to talk about is basically distributed generation, which I'm just gonna call I'll just call DG here, from here on out. And it's, what we're talking about tonight is rooftop installations, residential or commercial, electric customers on St. Francis' system. There are other types of DG systems, which are larger, systems, larger community solar farms, which usually utilities put in and so on and so forth. And that's basically that kind of just went over the second page of, that PowerPoint there. And the third page is the history of the DG policy, which I'm not going to go into detail on a lot of these. This is just kind of from 1979 until now, what's kind of happened in the state of Kansas. In my opinion, the most important part is, so in 2009, net metering laws were adopted, but those only apply to investor-owned utilities. The state of Kansas adopted the parallel generation laws in 1979. Those apply to all utilities. And then I'm going to jump forward to 25. Basically, in 2025, the parallel generation statute was changed And in accordance with that, KMU, Kansas Municipal Utilities, updated DG toolkit. And I think, Jen sent that to you guys as well. It's a very long technical document. Well, it has the interconnection standards in it, which are long and technical, and then it has basically kind of a description of, DG policy in Kansas and the reasons for rate design and so on and so forth. And if you have any questions about that, you can ask me. I'll answer them to the best of my ability as well. I mean, I have it up right now in case you guys had questions on it. And also in that toolkit is a lot of good resources. It has ordinances for you guys to look at, example ordinances for parallel generation, example ordinances for net metering. It has both net metering and the parallel generation statutes in it. The parallel generation statute that's in it is not the one that does not include the updates, because that has not been put in statute form yet. I did send that with the PowerPoint presentation in the House bill form, so it's still redlined, but so you could see the changes in it if you wanted to. So that kind of gets us, if you go to the next page, which is page 4, this is just kind of a matrix diagram that I put together to kind of help out folks see what they needed to do. So, kind of 3 sections here. The city does not have a policy, or the next section in the blocks is interconnection standards previously adopted, and then the last section is interconnection standards and rate ordinance previously adopted. So I'm going to go with the first set of blue boxes here because you guys don't have a policy. St. Francis doesn't have a policy yet. So you guys reached out to KMEA, that's been done, and we're discussing policy options now. And instead of me driving out there, I'm meeting over the phone, so I appreciate that. So the goal for me tonight is basically, or for you guys, is to approve the interconnection standards, and I'll kind of go over what they are. They're the technical document. And then approve a rate ordinance, either parallel generation. That's what the statute requires for municipal utilities. If you choose to, you can also do net metering, but municipal utilities have to have parallel generation ordinance. That's all you have to have. You don't have to do net metering if you don't want to. And basically, kind of, parallel generation and net metering are just a rate ordinance. So it's kind of confusing because I call it parallel generation, but the systems are put in parallel with your distribution system, and it doesn't really matter. It's in parallel, and it doesn't really matter what rate you charge. That's just how we're calling the difference between net metering and a parallel generation rate, if that makes sense. We don't really like the words parallel generation in the rate, but that's what the statute refers to, so that's what we're going to have to keep referring to. And I'll get to how those rates are different later on. So on page 5 here, parallel generation policy is basically just the most common are rooftop solar. So the customer self-generates for himself, and any excess he feeds onto St. Francis's distribution system. And so if you adopt a parallel generation rate, the customer pays normal retail rate for kilowatt hours provided by the utility to the customer. And then if the customer system pushes excess generation onto the city's system, then the utility pays the customer for the excess generation at 100% of avoided energy cost. Now that's not retail, that's 100% of avoided energy cost, and that's usually around, depending on where you're at in the state, anywhere from 2.5 cents per kWh to 3.5 cents per kWh, depending on that month. Usually most municipal utilities do it, if they credit, they do it on a monthly basis. You can do it on an annual basis if you choose, but a lot of times it's just easier to do it monthly. And also in the statute and the update, we got a formula has been added to help you size these systems, and basically the formula is included in this presentation. So basically it's just their 12-month energy energy consumption divided by 8,760, which is the number of hours in a year. And then you divide that quotient by a capacity factor of 0.288. And that calculation, whatever it comes out to, is the maximum allowable size of their system that you have to allow. Because the point of the systems isn't to basically push kilowatt hours onto the utility system, it's just to self-generate and cover their load. And then there's also a formula here in case that there's not historic consumption, and you can calculate that just by the square feet. And then some other important aspects of the statute is in 2025, municipal utilities only have to allow up to 6% of the utility's peak demand. And then in 26, it'll go to 7%, in 27, it'll go to 8%. And so for you guys, I looked at your peak demand that we have on record, I think probably from 2023 or 2024, and that's basically 70,323 kilowatt hours. So and right now in 2025, you would only have to allow 440 kilowatts of DG systems to be installed on your system. Hopefully I said that okay. That makes sense. So if you had so many systems installed that went up to, the next system was going to be 450 kilowatt hours, you can say, no, we're done, it's first come, first served. That's for 25, and then you'd have to calculate 26 and 27. The next slide I've just included for description purposes. It's a net metering policy. It only applies to investor-owned utilities. Customers pay normal retail rate for net purchases, and utility pays its customer for net excess at 100% of avoided energy costs. And I'll kind of explain the rate differences here in the next couple slides. Not because that seems almost the same, but it's not. It's how you read the meters. Maximal allowable capacity per customer is 150 kWs, and then total accumulated maximum obligation installation on the city system is 3% in 25, 4% in 26, and 5% in 27. So the 3% for City of St. Francis peak demand would be 220 kilowatts. And the next picture is just kind of a diagram of how the system works and what happens. Some of these numbers, if you can read them, they're pretty small print. I'm going to use in the next slide to kind of go over how our bill works. So this is a parallel generation bill example. So at St. Francis's rate, the top box there is no solar, so customers billed for 800 kilowatt hours. And if you can see the numbers on this little diagram, this little picture, there's a 450 and a 250 there. Yeah. So there's a 350 and a 450 over by the light bulb, and that's 800. That's what this house in this example used. So you have your $9.75 minimum charge, then your 800 kilowatt hours times your 12.25 cents consumption charge comes to $98 plus the minimum charge. So your total bill is $107.75. That's no solar. So on a parallel generation rate, what basically happens is you'll have a bidirectional meter. It's going to read it's one meter. It's going to read, it'll have two readings. If the customer has a solar system, it'll read what the utility sends the customer and what the customer sends the utility. So in this example, the customer is billed for 450 kilowatt hours, and they sent 250 kilowatt hours to the city. So in this example, the customer is still charged $9.75 minimum charge. The 450 kilowatt hours is billed at 12 1/4 cents or 12.25 cents. That's $55.13. They receive a credit for the 250 kilowatt hours they sent you guys, and I just used 2 cents as an example, so that's $5. So you add all that up together, that's basically a $60 bill. So they basically went from $107.75 to $60 for after just to give you an example. So now on net metering, like I said, I'd explain this. All they're gonna do is, if you look at this picture, remember you sent them $4.50 and they sent you $2.50. So on net metering, they net it before they bill. So you do $4.50 minus $2.50, so they would just pay for 200 kilowatt hours. So essentially, 250 kilowatt hours, they're getting at retail rate, is how it works. That's the difference in the billing. It cut this bill even down lower. I mean, they'd only pay 200 times 12.25, and then plus the $9.75 minimum charge. There wouldn't be a credit because they use more than they sent you, but it would still be a lower bill than the parallel generation rate. All right, so basically on the next slide here, well, I'll stop there. Is there any questions on the rates, on how it's billed, and from those examples?
Any questions? Nope, not so far.
Okay. Okay, so the next slide just kind of, the heading, the title of the slide is need for a policy. Why do you need a policy? Well, basically, you need a policy, in our opinion, for safety. Because most of what we recommend is an ordinance that will adopt the interconnection standards, and that's that long technical document with the application process in it, and a lot of resources and a lot of information. And that also lays out how they have to install the system and the safety measures they have to put in place on the rooftop solar. And one of the main ones is there has to be a manual disconnect that your lineman can get to at any time. If he needs to work on that circuit, he can go to the house, he can shut it, he can open the breaker. Now the systems also have safety measures set up in them that if they're on a circuit that goes down, they're supposed to automatically shut down. But the manual disconnect there is for extra safety, just to open the breaker to make sure they don't feed anything back on the system while your city staff's working on that circuit. So that's the main reason for the interconnection standards. And it also ensures the reliability of your system. It has set standards on how they install it, so that doesn't disrupt your city's system. And then the rate is basically just a rate recovery. And KMEA's perspective is we recommend the parallel generation because they pay you for what they use from the utility, and then you credit them back at your avoided energy cost, which is basically just a swap. Your avoided energy cost is just what, if you went to the market, you would have to pay. So you're saying, well, I got it from you guys, so I'll pay you for what I would have had to pay for it in the market. So it's a one-for-one swap. And then this whole process provides expectations for customers. And the reputable solar installers across Kansas are very familiar with the KMU DG toolkit by now, and they're familiar with the interconnection standards. In the last update and change to the statutes in the last DG toolkit update, we worked with a number of them when we updated everything. So they're very familiar with it. If they're not, there's a good chance they might be fly-by-night. And so the next slide, I've kind of gone over all this. It was the KMU DG toolkit was updated in 25. It provides education materials and guidance on policies, and it also provides a lot of the resources I was talking about, like the template documents for the city, the interconnection standards, application and agreement, and a number of ordinances that you guys can review and sometimes just adopt as is and put in your ordinance number and your city information. And then also, it goes over rate design options more in depth and why, and things of that nature. So that basically brings us to next to the last slide, which is just KMEA's recommendations is if you already have a policy, which you guys don't, we'd recommend you to suspend or remove, but you guys don't have one, so we just recommend that you look over the ordinances and adopt the parallel generation policy that by ordinance also adopts the interconnection standards. And like I said, those have been provided in the packet for your review. And the interconnection standards are in there as well. They're pretty tough to read, so, and they're pretty dry, but they're in there and they have all the electrical codes that are necessary for the safety issues. So with that, I mean, is there any questions for me? It's pretty straightforward, I hope.
Are you up on all this, Dan? Are you up on all of this? Somewhat.
Say again, or was that directed toward me?
It was directed toward me, this Dan.
No. Okay.
We wanted to make sure he understood what was going on.
Okay.
I just know your number.
Yep, yeah, you know my number. I mean, basically, the most important thing is just to get the ordinance in place. I mean, if you guys want to check out the ordinances and put your information on them, I mean, and then send it to me, we can review it, me and Tyson can, and then, I mean, once an ordinance is in place, and if you have a new customer that comes in, and they fill out the packet, and you have any questions on it, I mean, you can send it to me and Tyson, and we'll take a look at it. And then also, if you have a question on the engineering diagram, they're required to provide a one-line. We send that on to Mike Schmotter a lot of times, and he takes a looks at it and gives any advice or opinions on it. If he wants anything changed or would recommend any changes be made to it. That's for new customers. I know you guys currently have one customer, and they would just be, this policy would just be applied to them going forward. If that's what you guys wanted to do.
Okay, yep, we'll get that ordinance looked at and,
Yeah, it sounds like that toolkit was sent out with the packets the last meeting, but not printed.
Right,
So
that was the big
it'd be on our shared,
okay.
for us to look at.
It's
We-
94 pages.
Yeah.
I have it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after we hang up with you, then I can explain to them how our bill works, like we talked about the other day, and then they can make some decisions on that, but.
Okay. If you want me to stay on, I can, or if you want to end the call, you can, or it's up to you. I mean, hopefully I covered what we needed to cover.
Yeah.
Probably, I think probably to get it started, unless Dan has a different opinion, I think probably we can explain the rest of it, like what our bills look like and stuff, and then, our city attorney's looking at the 94-page document now, that I had not looked at, so that way we can get something going and get something written and have you look at it and stuff.
Okay. And just for your attorney, like one of the ordinances I was talking about is page 76 of the docket document. And then it's not really, once you adopt the interconnection standards, it's not adopting this whole document. It's adopting basically starting on page 40, going through page 75. So if that helps. It reduces itself. Like I said, some of the first part of it is what a bunch of us put together at KMU for the packet, and it's just the general text of it, going over it and at a high level, and then in a more detailed level of what I just went over, and then the interconnection standards are the important part, and they start on page 40. So, but if you need more help or have any more questions, you have our number and our email, and you're more than happy to welcome to call anytime.
Alrighty, thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
So basically, when he was talking about the parallel generation, and the parallel billing, that's what Robert's meter currently is, that's how it comes out on the bill, we talked about that last time, so. We do have another meter up at the, what used to be the Grace Fine Service office, when Robert initially put it in, we will have to order a new meter because that one does the net metering. So, but Dan and I talked about that, and really, the new meter that we got works the best because you can see what we sold and what's coming back. Because then if you decide to go with the parallel generation or billing, then I can go in there and change that rate. And he said that he would show me, on the bill where to look each month to see what that is, so I could just change that on a regular basis. I would probably recommend doing the parallel generation billing.
It's pretty standard through the industry, isn't it?
Are you happy with it, Robert?
Well, no, I mean, I don't think that's the policy. I get why the utility company wants to do it that way. They want to value, they only want to give you the wholesale rate, but during the month, you give the retail rate, but you don't give it from month to month. What that does is disadvantage the solar, the rooftop solar, because you generate a lot more in the summer than you do the winter. So this policy is designed basically, or I'm not gonna say it's designed, it inhibits solar generation because the only thing that makes sense economically is to have a very small system. If you do net metering, which some states do, then it makes more sense. And from my standpoint, what that does is make a higher mix of solar into the power system, which means less carbon into the power system. Because the city's energy has carbon in it, the solar doesn't, but of course, a municipal power agency is going to want to essentially get rid of the competition from solar, but my argument is the solar is a better source of energy, not an equivalent source of energy. I agree with everything else, the interconnect has to be safe for, and I do agree, you have to have a maximum amount that you put in, because if you have an unlimited amount of rooftop solar, it will start to have adverse effects on the city's power system. I mean, there's an upper limit, so it's kind of like whoever gets there first gets to use it, but you can't have it be too big unless you start buying a bunch of batteries, and you don't want to do, I mean, maybe you do want to do that in the long run, but in the short run you want to do that because it'll cost you more than the power you're buying now. But yeah, for me, this, or I think, and not just for me, if you exempted me from this, I still think this is a bad policy for the city, because I really believe that we need to, the world needs to generate power with solar, not with coal. And that's what we're talking about here, on a very small scale. But I mean, it's you guys' call, and like I say, if you want to exempt my system out, that's fine.
Well, and I don't, I mean, that's one thing I didn't ask him Friday when we talked, but I mean, I do feel like whatever you guys decide to adopt, we're gonna have to adjust Robert's bill back. I mean, even though we don't have a policy in place, I believe that would be the right thing to do for the last 2 or 3 months, whichever way you decide to go, because it's a simple, adjustment in the system. Right now, we've just been letting him have basically a 0 usage bill with the meter charge. So, I will say that, I think we should make it right, even though the policy wasn't in place, because we're talking, I think, since May. May was the first time?
Probably.
Yeah.
And that's not a big deal to me either, I mean, we're not talking a lot of money, we're two.
What's a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, and
More
that's
than a
that
little.
you came in and told me, hey Jen, I don't think you're doing it right. And I was like, oh no, I did not.
Well,
Anyways, so I do believe that would be the right thing to do, but I mean, it's up to you guys how, I mean, basically what it's gonna boil down to is you're either gonna pay the customer basically, I mean, they're gonna see it on their bill, we're not writing them a check, it's just gonna carry itself on the bill. It just depends on on if you wanna pay them that rate that he was talking with, the 2.5 or 3.5 cents each month. And I mean, it varies each month, or you actually wanna pay them, or let them have what we're charging other customers, basically is what it boils down to. And all municipalities are required to do, as you saw, was the parallel. So that part's up to you, but either, whatever you decide, I do believe we should fix it back.
Thoughts?
Are you carrying a credit now?
Well, no, we
Well-
just zeroed it out. Again, the issue is that, the city can do it however they want. They can say that every kilowatt hour generated by the rooftop solar only gets credited at your avoided rate, basically the wholesale price. I'm gonna use that word instead of
Yeah.
avoided rate, because that's just a way to hide it. Or they can say that the rooftop solar gets to trade as long as they don't exceed their monthly allowance. So if the rooftop solar generates 400 kilowatt hours and they consume 400 kilowatt hours, even though those are at different times of the day, if you see what I'm saying, because at night, the city's putting power into the building, and in the daytime, because the sun's generating more power, then there's a net going back to the city. But at the end of the month, if it's 400 and 400, then your bill is zero plus the connection charge, the $20 a month that you pay to be connected to the city, which is completely fair. I mean, there needs to be a connection charge because you're connected, you've got a meter, the meters happen to be read. But the question is, and so in the winter time, when the days are short, a system that's sized like these guys want to size it, and that's fine. I mean, it's a little restricting, but if you have during the winter months, what's going to happen is it depends on your demand, but most entities are going to consume more from the city than they're gonna generate with the solar. So they're just gonna have a reduced bill. The question again is the credit at wholesale or retail, but still they're gonna have a reduced bill because it's less kilowatt hours. But in the summertime, when my solar panels are generating a lot and I'm only consuming a little, then I'm giving the city power, locally produced, that's going to run the air conditioners in the buildings around me. The question, but at the end of the month, if I have generated 800 kilowatt hours and I only consume 400, then that 400 kilowatt hours, what net metering means is that would get carried forward to the next month and the next month and the next month, and then on March 31st, it just zeroes out. So you don't want the solar producer to be able to generate for, end up with an extra 1,000 kilowatt hours at the end of the year and say, hey, you guys have to write me a check. You wanna make it, you don't really need the size limitations, because if you have this annual cutoff, which is how they do it, where they have net metering, then any extra that I've generated is just a gift to the city, to the municipality, because they just zero it out. They zero the credit out. But the question is, does the excess generated in the summer, can you carry that through to the winter when your panels aren't generating as much? I mean, that's the fundamental question. The KMA is saying, no, you can't, we want you to do it. They're making it as hard as they can on the solar generator for whatever reason. But the net of this policy is it's going to inhibit, people aren't going to want to spend money on solar panels in St. Francis because the payoff is quite poor, or they're gonna put up very small ones that aren't nearly big enough to zero out their electric bill. Because there's no way to do that if you can't carry it forward. Just because it really comes down to latitude. We're at 40 degrees north latitude, so our summer days are much longer than our winter days. If we were at the equator, we wouldn't have this discussion, but that doesn't help us much. Because the days be the same length, and then your daily consumption, your monthly consumption and production would be basically the same. You see what I'm saying?
And so he's talking, like kilowatt hour credits. For me, it would be dollar
Right.
credits. On the bill, we would just see dollar credits.
But the question is, if the kilowatt hour credits, you're right, I agree.
For me, it's the dollars that are gonna
Right,
carry
but the
forward.
question is, are the kilowatt hours valued at wholesale or
Right.
retail? That's the question. That's really the only question.
That's really the biggest, that's what you guys need to decide, and I mean, I'm not saying you need to decide it tonight, because here's why. That 95 page document, that toolkit, was uploaded on the share, right, at the last meeting, so, I mean, really it boils down to what kind of a rate you basically want to pay the customer.
I also emailed it to everybody,
Perfect.
the
I
last,
couldn't
the
remember.
last meeting.
Yeah. I kinda had a little panic attack when he said that, 'cause I was like, that wasn't in my
Yeah.
mail today. So basically it boils down to dollars. Now, one of the, I guess I didn't think to ask, Darren this, even the other day when we were talking, I mean, he's talking about that, the rate, the 2.5 to 3.5 cents, whatever he called that, I've lost the words, but, I mean, I don't know that you're bound to just do that. I mean, if, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, if they wanted to pay back at a rate that's more than what he said, but not quite what we're charging the customers, I suppose that would be at your discretion. You would just need to we would need a rate ordinance for that.
I don't think we wanna charge our, more than our wholesale, but I think we need to get at least close to that. But I don't,
So you're saying just credit the wholesale value?
well, I'd say close to that, but we're still running our equipment into the building and everything, so I don't know as if we should give a full wholesale, but I mean, I think we should get close to that. If not that, I mean, we're not talking a lot, so I mean, either way, so. But either wholesale or just under that for us, because you're still getting your meter rate. So I don't think we're gonna be buying back that much. And I think it stipulates that you can only have so many people on that kind of a system. Is that what I was understanding? There's
Yes.
only so
Yeah,
many-
depending on
Yeah.
what we adopt.
Right,
We can set
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But you do want to do that, because
Yes.
in California, they got in trouble by, you definitely want to have a limitation on how
Mhm.
many are on it, although if you pay back at wholesale, it's not gonna be a problem.
Yeah. Well, Dan, didn't you say that they have restrictions on how big you can,
Yeah, that's what he's talking
that
about, the bill
amount right
size.
there? So it would be first come, first served once you hit that amount.
Well, it's the cumulative amount that,
Yeah,
so.
correct.
There's also, so there's, the way this reads is, there's limitations on how big each particular, entity, taxpayer, whatever,
Mhm.
can have, but also on the total amount compared to the system. But again, the limitation on the individual taxpayer really doesn't matter that much, because there's no incentive, if you can't carry the credits forward past 12 months, there's no incentive to build it bigger than that, because you're just giving the power to the city. I mean, the city gets the power, if you're yearly, even at full net metering, if you exceed your annual consumption, then you just donate the power to the city. That's what that March 31st deadline does. So the real thing you need to worry about is when the whole total number of systems exceeds it, that can start putting a strain on the system. So that limitation's important.
Mhm. Anybody else have any?
What's our wholesale rate? Do we know that?
It varies each
Right.
month. I did a
Fine.
spreadsheet last week just to kind of look,
Like
but
5 to 8 cents or something like that? Around
How much did you say?
that? Around 5 to 8?
yeah, that sounds pretty close. I mean, I just have to do I have a spreadsheet set up, and so.
Yeah.
This guy said 2 on the phone.
That was avoided cost. He was calling it avoided cost.
Okay, I don't understand that now.
Well, he's calling it avoided energy cost, but when I we get 3 bills for our power each month. And so if I take the total of all of those, and then divide it obviously by the kilowatts that we bought each month. It's not necessarily this avoided energy cost, there's a line item on that bill. And we just talked to him Friday, so, I mean, I'm still learning about it a little bit, but, there's a little bit more that goes into what our actual cost is than this avoided energy cost. So, but, yeah, just
Okay.
varies each month, but.
At the risk of being obvious, there's a huge difference between 8 cents and 2 cents in these conversations. If it's 8 cents, that's a lot different than what he said on the phone.
Well, but he's talking about avoided energy cost, not our complete cost.
Right.
So, yeah,
Okay, so.
we're talking about two different things because we
Yeah.
have other factors to figure out what our actual cost is each month.
I mean, I guess I'd kinda like to see what those figures are.
I could get a spreadsheet together. I mean, I can't, like, now I can't just like go whip that up
Right.
because I have to look at 3 different bills, put it into a spreadsheet.
But at least that way we would know what our.
But I could have that ready for the next meeting as part of the packet, so you could kind of see what it's done this year. Yeah.
And then we could have Lauren look at the suggested ordinance, right, that's out there, so then all we need to decide is that amount, and then we could plug that into the ordinance.
And I'll do that before the next meeting, so that way if we
All I
wanna
have to do
plug
is
it in.
Plug it in, and then we can have him review it and then approve it at the end of September,
If we do it at the next,
1st of September,
Or first.
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can have that. I've got the spreadsheet started. There's 3 different bills to consider. Because we get our Prairie Land bill, but we also pay KMEA 2 different bills.
Right.
So we have to take all of that into account for what it's costing us. So, yeah.
Sorry to keep.
So I just wanna confirm, you guys are actually meeting on September 1st, which is Labor Day weekend.
No,
No,
the first
the
meeting.
first meeting, but I was off on, so the next meeting, which will be the 25th,
Okay.
she'll
of
have that
August.
spreadsheet, so we can see what the actual numbers are for the city. Lauren will have the suggested ordinance gone through, so we can plug what we decide on the 25th.
And the policy.
Yes. So she'll have that gone through, so we can have a rough draft of that, plug in look at Jen's numbers, so then we can decide what we want to put in our policy. We can put that in there, have them review, and then approve that at the September, not September 1st, but the first meeting in September, which is
The 8th.
The 8th.
Right, okay, so the 25th, you'll have this
The
policy.
yeah,
They'll have the numbers, which we'll use to finalize the policy. Then, after the meeting, when I get the numbers and get the council's decision, I'll finalize the policy and we will send it to KMU to make sure that everything is okay. And then they will adopt and if they get the green light on that, then I will have had the ordinance ready to go and they will adopt the ordinance on the 8th of September.
All right, so on the 25th, you'll know this number.
we'll decide
I mean,
the number on the 25th.
That's the whole thing.
Yep.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
yeah, like I said, sorry to keep
It's fine, I
pushing it, but
understand.
yeah.
Well, it's
Something new
important.
and numbers and, yeah, things that we need to look at, so,
Yeah, but it's gonna be around for a long time, so.
yeah. So,
Thank you,
all right,
guys.
thanks, Robert.
See you.
Francis Street Water Main.
What?
Basically, Scott and I got together and we decided if we buy the material, it's gonna be cheaper than him providing the material. If we pay with it, if we go that way. So we're looking at a rough cost of $7,723.21. What we believe needs to be put in the roll.
Questions when you get stuff off, because nobody knows for sure what's down there. It should be really close.
So, and that's for, so like the bottom number here is with the CertaLock pipe, that'd be if we board it, so we're not doing 41,467, 41,467, and that's with your fee, correct? So your total, you're looking around 58,740, and that's including Brock's 9,500 on the concrete.
What was the total?
What's that?
What was the total again?
58,740.21. And that's it. Now, if we do remove that 2-inch line, there's another $3,450 added on to it. Plus it takes more time to do, so we'll have driveways block longer. He thinks if he puts the C900 in, we can pretty much backfill the driveways right away.
We wanna remove the pipe, you have to install a new pipe, have it tested, then once it's tested, we can go back and hook the services up for the houses. Then once those are hooked up, we can remove the old pipe and then backfill for driveway access.
Do you think you just bypass that?
Typically, in the past, that's what we've done, we just abandoned the old line, and on all the schematics for the city and everything, you just put on there that there's an abandoned line and say whatever we decide 3 feet from the new line. That way, in the future, if somebody's digging, they know there's an abandoned line in the vicinity.
And this line will be, just so the community knows, this line will be chlorinated before it's put in use, and then we will have it tested before we actually install service in it.
So how far apart will the new line go with the old line?
That's up to everybody to decide. We could put it a foot away, it doesn't have to be a long ways away, or we could go further away. Typically, we go about 2 feet, just so we have some room, so we're not really hopefully disturbing the old one too much to keep it in service while we're installing the new one until we have it tested.
At one time, we talked about pushing it closer to the curb, so then we could do shorter service
Yeah.
rather than have to.
That way, won't have couplings. There'll be a couple days probably there on the chlorination and flushing, and then we'll have to get the water tested. Just depends on who we use to test it, on how quick they can do it. Sometimes it's same day stuff, sometimes it's 2 days on getting that, so there might be a little time there. And once that's approved, we'll connect it.
I'll call the state, nothing same day out here.
Yeah.
Is that more closer to the sidewalk?
Well, we think pushing it this way, that way, cause all the service taps are on the west side of the road, so we push it to the west a little bit.
About a gun?
Yeah, we just use the service taps.
We can just go through and cut the
Then we
old
won't
ones
have
loose
to
and run
actually
it.
dig up meters and.
That was a shut off too? What a shut off?
Yeah, we're gonna put, what, two or 3 valves. 3 valves for sure is what we're talking right now.
Yeah. One on
One on
each end.
each end, and, you know, we haven't really discussed the fire plug part, did we?
Yeah.
Or-
That's not, if you wanna add that in, that'd be easy.
I need to go, I think they're 2 blocks apart now, plus there's one down by your house, so there may be enough there without it. And since we're kind of lined through the way it was, it'll open that loop back up. So right now, that loop in, First Street, it's broken, closed position, so it's just kind of dead end with the water right there. We get that open, it'll circulate through again.
Do you have a rough deal how long people might be without water service?
It should be a matter of an hour
Oh.
per house,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll leave the old one completely on until he gets everything put in.
Okay.
And then it'll be literally just going in, cutting the old one free, or the service line free from the old pipe and installing it on the new pipe. It really honestly shouldn't even be an hour, because you should have everything prepped. It should be literally just cutting the pipe and installing it into the new pipe. It should take 10 minutes, but an hour,
That makes sense.
yeah, it's really a quick doing it this way.
My dad, that's why we're doing the back on all of it, so we'll know we can get all the crap out of there. It's been running on this old pipe because of those issues. We hope.
What kind of time frame you looking at to do all this?
Takes about a week. And then concrete's, that's a whole nother game.
Yeah.
My part will be
2
a
weeks.
week.
2 weeks.
I can't speak for Brock.
2 weeks.
You're talking about going all the way up to the asphalt?
We're going, yeah, we go from where there's a main on Second, there's one on First. We put
to the asphalt.
I think so.
That's, what'd you say, almost 400 feet.
Yeah, total. It's connecting out there in First
Right.
Street.
Hopefully, we wouldn't have to tear up the concrete for real, like, after I'm gone, before anybody tears the street up again.
So you're gonna tear up the concrete all the way up to the asphalt?
Yeah. And then the way, that's part of the price.
So you're, what are you talking about, possible use of city limit?
Dan mentioned possibly having the city guys help me instead. I would run the equipment and supervise and help install everything, but have a couple city guys help me instead of having my guys do it. But it will considerably take longer.
If you had city help,
Yeah.
it would take longer.
Yes. Just because the guys I have, we've been working together for 20 years.
Sure.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that option there is.
And I'm okay with either one.
Well-
That's, I was just trying to, if it helps save the city money.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it
but
takes away,
Same time, it's taking away employees from doing other stuff that needs done.
Out of 5,000. Just to get it done. It's already been done. We've already wasted enough money.
We've shortened the street plenty enough times, so, yeah.
I'm looking at this.
What's your timeframe on starting on this?
I could start it as early as Monday, but it's all pending on material and getting the company that has to come out and do the taps to put the new valves in that we connect to. That'll probably honestly be the biggest, the material's probably pretty quick, but getting them scheduled to tap it will dictate everything. But
And that's the same company, material and taps are coming from the same company.
Huh?
Part of that price is, I think $650, yeah, $650 for kind of two for the tapping fee. So basically, they'll send all the clamps out, we clamp it on, they come out, and then machine on, tap it, shut the valve off, and leave. And then keep moving the work. So it is.
So where are we looking at taking this from, paying for it?
Capital improvement.
Capital improvement?
Yep, yeah, I looked up the statute and so,
All
yeah.
clear on that?
Yep, also for, just while we're talking about it, also for the pool painting. We're good to
Oh, really?
What's that fund got in it, you know?
What's that?
What's that got in it, you know, right off the top of your head, how much money's in there, capital improvement?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. I could certainly go look it up though.
I can look that up.
A minute, yeah, it's on the, yeah, we've got it. I could tell you. Hold on,
So what are we looking at
yes.
total wise for?
Well, if I got it figured
Hang on,
out, it
here's-
should be $58,740.21.
With the concrete?
That's unless we get a surprise somewhere along the way.
Yes.
I think that would go with the proposal.
$58.
$58,740.21.
Paid out of capital improvement.
Correct.
Alright, moved by
Second.
Justin, second by Kale, all in favor?
Thank you, guys.
thank you. I'll look at it, get a vote. Keep that street flooded again.
Property cleanup,
So I wouldn't get the pictures you guys wanted. This would be the River Street one. I got part of the pictures, I didn't have time to get it all done. But this is the Emerson Street one.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like you've got $744,245.47. Huh?
Should be good then.
That's more than I thought.
Don't look for it, it's fine. More is better. Now, if you guys wanna see, this is one, I basically told them they were cleaned up. That's all of them.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the difference from old to the new picture. Just like the something in the new one, it's just registered and rules and
Oh, yeah.
it's just.
That's what you're talking about. Couldn't remember where that was. Dan, I just sent you another one. I forgot to send it.
Well, I didn't get them all done this time.
Yeah.
Lauren, on the one that we did on the docket, did you get that?
No, we'll do it at municipal court. We just generally take care of those things
But it wouldn't.
at municipal court, the one, yeah.
Okay.
So then on the two, if you guys decide you want that thing up, kind of, if you can just roughly what you want to do, so, you know, kind of guess and all that stuff.
Yeah, the one on Rivers kind of changed already and yeah, the first one.
That was pictures tonight.
Oh, it was?
What's happening?
Change again.
Well, obviously the one down here would be
The one that's done,
one of the, one
the
there.
other one for check, but I
Yeah.
can't think of the address for the two.
But obviously the power.
Is that zoning enforcement?
How about the McCoy house?
It's on the tax sale.
Oh, it is?
Which one's that?
McCoy's?
The big one?
Both is.
Jackson.
Both of them? First, or second?
Second Street,
Did have a complaint on Quincy Street about a couch out by the alley and stuff, and I caught the guy today and he went up there, hopefully get it.
On the pallets. What do you guys think
What's that?
about the pallets? Just move those? Remove those?
Yeah, I need a roof, I mean, is
project spending.
Or was there any?
I wrote on the back of them.
Are we sending letters to these?
Oh, you guys want those? Yes. Yeah.
To, how many properties are we looking at here?
There's just two. One's cleaned up, got the go-ahead on North Street. Dan gave them the okay.
Okay,
That one needs a letter. That one's cleaned up, that
That's
one's
one
okay.
cleaned up, the second picture. And it was cleaned up a little more than that before.
So, yeah, I wrote on the back. Top picture. So there's two.
One was River Street, not,
I don't have addresses,
Everybody
but
okay
I
with
guess
sending
we'll
those
go.
two letters? Okay. Project spending.
I'll get a sign up there eventually,
Which one?
up in fire lot.
Oh, okay, before the time
Probably
runs out.
With crosswalk, one,
Huh?
or with
Which
crosswalk.
one's it then?
It's supposed to be painted this week.
Yeah, well, probably not this,
Still,
Is it?
probably not
Oh,
this,
maybe.
look at all that.
Dave's on
Clean up,
Yeah,
add some things up free. Couple of them,
yeah.
I hope.
So we are getting crosswalks, or we will get crosswalks painted?
I hope to, yeah. If we don't get it this week, we'll be working on it next week. The only reason we wouldn't get it this week is if everybody's cleaned up.
Can't get to the street, it's covered with dirt.
Yeah.
Anything else, project spending? I did talk with Michael Baxter, he should be on the agenda for next meeting to go over. So,
On the crosswalk thing, did we say we want crosswalks over here or just put signs over here?
I think we're just gonna put signs for the
Okay.
time being, signs there and paint the other crosswalks. Streets project. Did you guys meet? We did meet with Teddy Weber on Saturday. I just got a text message from him just a little bit ago. We're gonna get some information together as to what streets we want done, and he's gonna give us a quote to come out and core them, and then give us his recommendations. He thought some of them, if the base is good, and I can't, what's the word he used?
No, and you have to put on the crown, put on the foundation, and on,
Basically, yeah,
there's three different ways to do it.
you can just kind of reclaim it, I guess, and just mill it
Yeah.
off, and then chip seal it to where if the base is good, you can just
Mhm.
kind of set your
Reshape
mill
it
to
for the-
reshape it and just,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
do a double chip over it and be good, so,
If not, you'd have to mill it off and then
Fix it.
incorporate Portland cement with the soil to get a base, and then you have to start
So,
over.
In time?
we get, what did he say, he's got a job down in
He's got Oklahoma this week.
This week, but basically we need to get him a list of the streets that we've talked about, and he needs to know the width, and then they'll set a time, come out and core it, and then he can give us recommendations as to what he thinks, whether it needs a full 2-inch mill and overlay, or if we could do that. I can't remember the word he used for it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
He did say reclaim.
Reclaim?
basically,
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we still looking at doing any crack sealing?
Planning to, I haven't talked to him yet, but
Yeah.
I know at the beginning of the year we discussed it.
So, he just said, once we get him the information, he'll get it on his schedule, get it worked, so he can give us a recommendation. And I think as far as what he talked, like even next year,
Yeah,
right? We
sounds
could-
like a sheet we're ready to go, then
Yeah,
we do the whole thing.
so,
And last, all time.
Cool.
yeah, that's where we're at. Anything else, streets wise? Cleaning up? Street sweeper working on it.
There's a couple
Well,
of rocks on the roads.
Yeah,
rocks on Main
Just
Street.
a few.
TJ
Rocks
talked
are
about it last night.
Is
Yeah.
the alleys
Chunks
have
of
any
Every
asphalt.
night for a week, probably.
Jeez. You can make it this far, not to dump this week.
Brick down my street, I have no idea where it would have come from.
Thought of the alley dirt was coming right up to the alley.
I said if you ever you mind, just throw down the alley. Cause they're holding me.
You could do that in my alley too.
Visitors, theater report. Unless Sherry had something for visitors now.
I'm still recovering from last week.
Yes, I bet.
Thousand pictures.
Theater report, Sarah, did you have anything?
Let's
See, they didn't have quorum,
They
so.
really didn't have much.
Yeah. Okay. School report, okay. Are they open on weekends or no?
So I'm still waiting for a final decision.
Okay.
I think she posted that.
Did she?
I'm pretty sure she posted on the actual court page.
Okay.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard a definite answer yet, so.
well, let me look before I.
When will it close?
It closed the 9th.
29th.
Oh, the actual, cause it's
Yeah,
still
I
lap
was-
swim and aqua size.
Saturday was the last full day.
Yeah.
They're gonna do laps and aqua size through the 29th, I'm pretty sure.
Which would be Friday.
Of August, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 29th will be the actual last day.
Yeah.
And I think she's still working on some private parties and stuff too, possibly too, so.
So this says August 16th and 17th, and then August 23rd and 24th, open swim 1 to 5. And then it discusses the other stuff, the lap swim and stuff, but it sounds like they'll be open the
1 to
next 5
5.
weekends, yeah.
So I need to check Facebook, is that what you're saying?
Give it the time, Nate.
That's where I get on that.
Superintendent report.
Okay, so we got the spreader ordered, finally. But I need permission to pay it out of cycle in the amount of $5,374.99, paid out of Clearwater Reserve.
I'll make a motion to pay it out of cycle.
Moved by Kale,
Move second.
second by Justin, all in favor. Okay.
Okay, so the rain last night did the lift station got really close to overflow, so I'm gonna go kinda look at some stuff, see if we can figure something out. Rerouting some water somewhere, or getting the county to reroute water, but I think what it all did was the manhole right below the lift station, and it stayed there until it finally got pumped up to the sewer ponds, down enough that it was below the manhole, and then we were probably within 2 foot of overflow. But it did not overflow.
Thank goodness.
I didn't tell you we did some patching, but I think it all washed away last night. Most of it did.
If I be on my corner, you can come pick it up.
That's part of my alley,
Okay.
at your corner.
You can have it back, I'll give it to you.
So we just talked about the crosswalk paving. We're doing the west side, east side of the grade school, and then the stoplight at the high school. Is that all done?
Two at the grade school?
Well, we'll have, I don't know if we're going across or how we're gonna go for sure, 2 spots, and then up there at the east side of the grade school.
Anything on Spencer?
You can put it there if you want to. I mean, there's signs back there that say school crossing.
Do we need to repaint the one on Main Street?
Probably.
Yeah.
Wasn't that an issue last year on Spencer, kinda? I feel like we should maybe do that.
Probably wouldn't hurt.
I would.
I mean, the
Might
more the
slow
better,
people
right?
down.
I mean,
Yeah.
people don't pay attention very well.
You're gonna have to do it at both corners?
I think they should.
We were talking Spencer.
So they're going that way,
Yeah.
going north and
Going
south.
north and south.
Not east or north. No, cause I'm crossing the school that way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Which side of
Yeah,
the
both
school?
sides.
Both sides of the school.
I think think so, wouldn't that be smart?
Probably.
Francis and,
Dennis.
Washington just gets the one, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kinda way back when, a long time ago, they did two there, but I think we just do the one now.
That's been a long time.
yeah, never seen it.
Well, I'm old, so I remember a long time ago.
Far, far away.
And I said it's on that sign for the Empire lot. I do remember it, I just forget it for a little bit and then I remember it again. And we did have to get a couple tires for the trash truck that I ordered, $663 from Cobalt. For two of them.
Is it holding up better? The line?
Yeah, I think so. I'm hoping this is maybe the way they started to work, so they just draw it the same. So, it ain't burning the front tires off. And that's really what we got.
Questions for Dan? Is there a motion to accept and file the superintendent report?
Move to accept and file.
Moved by Justin, second by Larry. All in favor? Attorney report?
You have all been provided a copy of ordinance 655. That is the Idea Tech franchise agreement as was discussed at the previous meeting. I received the utility pole agreement, use agreement from Jen or Lila. One of them sent it to me and I sent it on to them stating that the compensation paragraph stated that nothing else would be paid to the city for the right-of-way, but we wanted it stated in there that in the event they decide to utilize the city's poles, that they will pay the city at the rental rate per the pole agreement that is standard for utilities. They reviewed it, they didn't have an issue with it, so subparagraph D has been added to compensation to the city. Other than that, there were no
I got a
changes.
question for that. I was talking to a telecommunications person, and he recommended that we do a full audit to see if even they can even handle another load on the pole.
And they knew that, they might not, that the city poles may not be able to handle it, and they'd have to see if that was the case.
Right, but I think they need to do a full audit with an engineer and come out there and do it, they pay for it.
This new company pays for it?
Yeah. Cause it doesn't do any good to have poles if it can't hold another load or it's too heavy or whatever, so. And that was a recommendation, he said. And. Let's see. That's not the one, right? It's called a make ready. Is what it's called, it's called make ready.
What?
Make ready. I could have them call you.
I mean, I can propose it to them. I know that in the correspondence that we've had with them, the email correspondence I've had with them, they had stated that they didn't know if they would be able to use the city's utility poles because they didn't know if they would be able to handle the load or if they need to provide their own. This is not stating that they will use our utility poles, it just is stating that in the event that they do, they have to pay the rental agreement. But if council wants me to contact them,
Wouldn't we have some say if they decide to use our poles?
they'd have to sign the rental agreement.
Correct, and if, at that point,
Right.
if we feel that may be
Right.
too much of a load, could we not have them do that audit at that?
Well, wouldn't they have to do that anyway, to verify the polls?
Yeah, they're not gonna wanna put, they're not gonna wanna put anything on the pole that's not gonna be able to be supported.
Correct.
Well, yes and no, they could, without an agreement.
Right, but they still have to enter into the pole agreement with the city. This is not,
This is a third party, basically. A firm come in, a contracting firm would come in, not picked even by us, but they would come in and approve whether they can even do it before they even come in here. You just start, we'll see if they work or not.
Did we check with Atwood to see what they had in place?
Atwood didn't have any, they were like us as far as, having any, what did you guys call that last time? A permitting process for this kind of stuff, they didn't have that. What I will say is, and I think it might be in there, in the agreement they got, like this, my understanding was, if I understood her properly, I'm going to word it like that, is this company came into Atwood and put their equipment at every property in town, and they had some blowback from their residents, and some of the residents weren't happy. She said that their attorney, looked through it, whatever, and they didn't realize that part, but I can't remember the terms she used.
Well,
If it was in the alley, sometimes they didn't pay attention, there might be someone's driveway, they just put it there.
Well, that was my understanding, I was gonna bring that up after you guys were done talking about this, I just wanna make sure some of that caught some of the Outwood residents off guard, is how I'm gonna put it when they came in, because it sounds like they put their equipment everywhere, but I don't know, I only know fiber with what Eagle came in and did, and it's those tube things on the line, so I'm not being very specific because I don't really know the terminology of what they were putting in.
Cause I don't know if they'll piggyback off them.
Well, they must have done pedestals and buried it in Atwood or something, and probably put pedestals.
Maybe it was
Someone's
pedestals,
property or
I think
something.
that maybe it impeded a couple of people's properties, they had to ask them to move, but we're gonna ask them to move this.
Well, they did say if they can't go aerial, then they'll bury it, so.
Just hopefully they're respectful of where they put their pedestals with this, because some people utilize parking in a house.
I guess we probably ought to have somebody come here and give us a detailed, layout of where they want to put everything.
The guy offered to come
yeah,
out.
they said after, when he was on the phone, I'm pretty sure he said that when an agreement is reached, then their
They'll send
construction
somebody out.
manager
Yeah.
will come out, and present their plans to you guys, yes, and
So
discuss
we
them.
have a
But
chance
by
to
the-
approve it.
Mhm.
But by that point, you've already entered into the agreement.
That's correct.
I guess we're requesting to send somebody prior to. Is that feasible?
I can, I mean, I can,
Phone call would be nice, right?
I mean, if Atwood's getting feedback from what they've done there, we wanna make sure that doesn't happen with our citizens here.
Right.
I think, that we'd wanna make sure that.
so when you say they put them,
I'm not sure what because when I answered the phone, Lila was out, so I just took the message, and that was just one of the things she said, that some of the residents weren't happy, so I don't know, maybe it was a deal where they were going underground and put those pedestals, like when Viero came to town, because they put pedestals up where they buried that line that they went through, so maybe that's what she was talking about.
cause I mean, the agreement only specifies the city's right of way and other real property for the city, so they're just blocking access?
It
If
sounds
it's
like
a
maybe,
little bit alley, if somebody's pulling in and has a drive or something, I suppose it could be.
yeah, it sounded like maybe that was one instance where one of their pedestals or something got put up and it was right where someone utilizes their backyard, maybe for parking or
Unless
whatever.
they put pole boxes in or something.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, I don't know, maybe we need to have that guy, maybe we need to reach out to that guy and have him get on the agenda for next time and ask a little more specifics, that way we aren't caught off guard. I don't know. But
Come back with a
as,
more formal deal.
as far as any permitting process to allow companies like this come in, Outwood is the same as us, they don't have anything. So.
We'll have covered.
I can let them know that the city wants, and the city wants somebody represented, so that way we can discuss. And I'll bring up the audit, and then I'll bring up the concern that we've heard from Atwood regarding the feedback and wanting to make sure that that's not gonna happen in our city, and so we're wanting, I might say it's not gonna be a bad idea, it wouldn't be a bad idea to possibly have your project manager on a call so that way we could understand, that way the city council can understand. I understand that you said after the agreement was reached, but the concern with the city is that with the feedback we're getting from Atwood is that you're impeding residents' ability to access their property or their parking where they have been previously parking.
And that may have just been one instance, but I think it caught Atwood off guard when they came in. I'm not saying it's a bad way or good way, but, you know, I mean, if a pedestal popped up in my backyard, I'd be like, what? We were like that area, but. Well, then you can't move your
Drive
trailer.
right over it.
Yeah, anyways.
Alright,
I mean, the guy seems decent, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're fine.
You wanna reach out to them?
Yeah, I'll email. Yeah, I've been in correspondence with their VP of business and their council, and then their project. John Terry, I'm not sure exactly where he falls on that, but he's been my primary point of contact. But I will reach out to them
Okay.
and ask them to be available for the next meeting, and
Okay.
let them know what was brought up today. Due to a due to a health circumstance of one of the owners of the property, I'm dismissing one of the property cleanup cases. We can bring it again at a later time. But I spoke with Mayor Milne about this. I don't know that it's appropriate to be prosecuting at this time, and I'm not even sure that the defendant would be available. So we're going to dismiss it for now, and then we will restart the process at a later date. The notice, the advertisement for sale of the property, we discussed it being 2 weeks, running for 2 weeks. I had the paper run it for 3 weeks because as I was emailing them and automatically typed, please publish this for 3 weeks, and I had to go back and delete it for 2. Legal notices for real property have to be run for 3 weeks for publication. This is not necessarily a litigation matter, but I thought it would be prudent, since it is real property and it is a municipality, to run it for what is considered the legal notice time for real property. So I told them to go ahead and run it for 3 weeks. And I guess I'm asking forgiveness rather than permission from the council. I notified Amanda that I was doing this, but I thought it in the best interest of the council and the city, so I told them to go ahead with 3 weeks. I have nothing further.
I need a motion for forgiveness.
Yes. And what if it doesn't pass?
I don't know, but.
Did you wanna mention that letter that we received?
Oh. Yeah, Amanda
I
received,
received.
yeah, I mean, we've already
Kind of
discussed this. Apparently the container belongs to the postal service. It does not belong to the property owner. It wasn't the property owner who put it there, it was the postal service who put it there. As a federal entity, they are exempt from our ordinances. It's the supremacy clause. So unless we want to, they cited 2 cases, both of them pertain to buildings and permitting processes. They don't necessarily apply to like a storage container or a impermanent structure. However, unless we want to fight them in federal court, which I don't think we want to do, I also don't think we would win.
Not the federal government, I don't know that we, yeah.
I don't know that we want to fight them. I also we would not. I'm gonna go ahead and say we would not win.
I got a direct line.
So, the storage container at the post office, we can't do anything about.
Which I thought was kind of ironic, the cases that they listed, it was a city denied a building permit, and I'm like, well, they didn't even get a permit or ask permission, they
Yeah.
just put it up, so like, anyways, yeah.
So,
That one's a
yeah, we're,
federally, we can't
Yeah.
allow that one, so, if there's no questions for Lauren, is there a motion to accept and file the attorney report?
So,
Moved by Kale, second by Dara, all in favor? Treasurer report.
I don't think I have anything.
Clerk report.
Okay, let me find my notes. I just wanted to read you real quick, since we were talking about the statute on the capital improvement. Improvements can be in the adopted capital improvement plan, including the repair, restoration, and rehabilitation of existing public facilities. So now you know, moving forward, that's what the statute says. Okay, yay. We received a donation, from Gloria and Milne of $175, and she asked it to go for trees. So we have a fund for grants and donations, and that's strictly what it's for, is for that. We didn't have one for a category for parks, but I just created it because this may be something that might continue to happen. So now if people do want to donate for trees, we have a line item to put it into and track. So it's there. Out on the share, and I think it got printed for you guys. I wrote a narrative about our street improvements that we've done for the last however many years. I can't remember how far back I went. And I'm just asking you guys to look at it and see if it looks good. If it does, I'll put it on our website and share it with Cherie.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. So I'll just, let me know. I'm not gonna put it on until probably the end of the week, so if you happen to look at it and you see anything that you'd like to see different, just let me know. But that's a good summary. I need to ask permission to pay our AirMed memberships out of cycle when the invoice is received. We renew on September 2nd, but we won't have another bill cycle until after that, so we do need to get that paid. And again, that works, the people pay us and then we just pay AirMed. So it's not anything coming out of the city's funds, but just permission for that. Yeah? Yay. I don't think, yes, I
Yes.
do. Yes, I do need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to pay that cycle.
It was moved by Caleb, paid out of cycle, and seconded by Justin.
Just,
All in favor?
okay. We had talked last meeting about the roadside park, so I contacted Karina with Northwest Kansas Planning and Development, and we talked about the CDBG grants that are available for community facilities. First of all, the last LMI survey that we did in 2021 is no longer valid, but the good news is the latest census still shows the city at 51.8% low to moderate income, which is CDBG grants require 51%, so we're still eligible for CDBG grants. So the community facilities grants cover a wide variety of things, but parks happens to be one that is really popular right now, and they've been funding these quite a bit. The one in Ellis that's by that lake, they just got their bathrooms and stuff redone with a CDBG grant. So, but what she said was our two roadside parks up here were the ones that I was talking about, and she said that's great, except for those are primarily geared towards tourists and travel, and they don't directly benefit that 51% low to moderate income within our community. To make the project as a whole appealing and more likely to get funded, if you included other parks within the city limits, these across the street specifically, and made it one big project, it could look more favorable to the folks that make the decisions on funding. So she just suggested that, whatever direction you guys decide to go, but that was her thought. She also said if you want to focus on these two, she could look into some other grants, opportunities that aren't CDBG, that are more tourist and travel related. But she knows kind of what we're thinking, and so when you guys move forward with this, or if you do,
Are those standalone grants or are they partially matched?
they're partially matched. So there's small grants that range from $50,000 to $210,000, and they require a 10% match. The larger grants are like the street ones. They're up to $650,000 with a 20% match. If you're talking about replacing the bathrooms at these facilities, that's going to be expensive, and so you're not likely gonna be able to do all that with a smaller grant. You're gonna have to go for a bigger grant more than likely. If you want information about what bathrooms cost, she can tell us what they spent in Ellis. And I'm going that direction in September, and I'll take a look at it and see what it looks like. Sounds like it might be kind of what we would be looking at up here, where the campground is, because it had showers and stuff like that. But these are all just preliminary notes for you to think about. Park improvements can include trees, landscaping, playground equipment, anything that has to do with a park can be included in your project. Let's see here. Can't do it this year. The funds have already been awarded for 2025. It's too late anyway because this is going to take some planning. But as you're doing this, if you decide to do a project like this, you have to have a preliminary engineering report, which we have the one from 2015 for the roadside park campground, which can be used by Miller and Associates as a starting point. But those costs, asbestos inspections of the buildings, even if they're being remodeled or removed, whatever, that has to be done, and public hearing costs, all of those things have to be paid for up front that the city has to fund before the grant is even applied for. So that's a cost you would have to look at and consider. You know, this might be something that your Parks and Rec Committee, although you won't be here much longer because currently it's Dara and Kale. You also have a roadside park board. Kale, Dan, Mike Meyer, Carla Lampe, and Carrie Zweigert are on your roadside park board. Just ideas of people that maybe could come up with initial plans. But if you're going to include this other park, then that other group that's currently would be certainly want to be involved in all of
And they had
this.
talked about having to do a different sidewalk to the bathrooms or something, so if you could incorporate that with upgrading these bathrooms, then maybe that would be the tie of making it handicap accessible.
Absolutely.
Tying it in with that project and getting maybe some of that for them funded
Yep.
through this.
Yep. And then also along those lines, if they do fundraisers and that kind of stuff, if they would do like the pool did with theirs, they had over $100,000 in fundraisers that they had done, and that was used as matching funds when we did that whole thing with the pool over there. So if you partner with this group that's doing this over here, that'd be an excellent plan. Something to think about. Karina's available to, talk with if we get to that point. So just have to think about what you want. But also along the same line, she let me know that there's been a change in the way they fund streets. So it used to be when you did a street project like the two that we've done, the entire community had to benefit and you had to meet that LMI standard. So the streets that we did were considered streets that everybody in the community uses, and so they benefited everybody. They've changed that slightly, and now you can pick a street. I can't even give you an example, but pick a street, and as long as the residents on that street, 51% of them are low to moderate income, you can get funding for that street, a CDBG grant for that street. So that could be something to consider on some of these that you're looking at. Again, there'd be matching funds and stuff, but you could get some potential CDBG funding, which surprised me. I didn't even think that was an option anymore. So that's what I found out on that. Any questions?
How about if we picked a street, figuring out if 51% of people were eligible, did you have to survey them?
Well, we have the surveys from 2021, and so it depends on if it's still the same people that live there, you just have to survey the people on that street.
So you have to resend that survey.
Yeah, but we'd have a really good idea if the folks that are living there haven't changed. We can look at previous surveys by address and determine. I don't think that they aren't kept by name, it's by address, yeah. No. So, but you could get a general idea.
Because it's not like the ownership anywhere, I don't think.
So, yeah. But the easiest way would just to be resurvey that block, which would be so easy if it's just a block. It was really hard when you had to do the whole community, but yeah.
But if you're talking, several blocks,
Yeah.
strip here and there and send them out. And if people knew it was to get funding for their streets, they might be apt to
Yeah.
fill it out and send it back.
So, I think that's all I have. Yep.
Motion to accept. Moved by Larry, second by Kale, all in favor? Council comments, Bud?
I'd just like to bring up about, or I don't know how to do it. I'd like to try to get a sound system in here. How do I go about that? What do I do?
Oh,
Yeah, Jen, do you remember, I know we've talked about it, and I thought we've looked at different ideas or options, or maybe Leanne had looked, I don't know, I think we just need to probably figure something out and just order it, right? I mean, do you have any thoughts?
I would have no idea
I have no
what you
idea.
need, but I could reach out perhaps on the clerk link and ask what other communities use. I think we definitely need something. This is really hard to hear. Even I can't hardly hear Dan sometimes, and I'm sitting right across from him, just because you're quiet.
I don't hear him most of the time, so.
That's why.
And it's
You're not
also
even
hard
saying
to get
anything.
the
Yeah.
events.
Yes. So I think that's a really great
Do
idea.
you wanna reach out on the clerk link? Should we start there, see what other cities are?
I know I've looked up some systems and some cheaper systems are, $1,000-$1,500 puts in a pretty decent system.
What do you have, like microphones?
Microphones for each station?
You have
or
one
what?
each for each station, you'll have one for your,
Speaker,
Yes, I did.
and you'll have one for your people that come in.
and then lights,
Do you-
ceiling, and-
Yeah.
But do you have that do you have that information, that like what the models are and stuff that you
I
could?
can get that.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great, very helpful.
Yeah,
And I would feel like this would be
And you
something that
put
could
your
be.
recorder on it, so it records everybody, everything.
Mhm.
And you can turn it off, you can turn it on, mute it, do what you want. You mute each person or whatever you wanna do.
might as
Who
well
has-
video camera too while we're at it.
Mute you.
Deny.
Okay,
You can have a forgiveness button too. I know that was easy, but.
I'll talk to
okay, yes,
Bud and I'll put it on the first link and,
okay,
yeah.
do you have anything else, Bud? Kale?
Question about our clerk situation.
Sound
I think that's on the tail end.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Anything else?
Nope.
I started to ask once I read the bottom.
Larry?
Only thing I've got is concert in the park on September 6th. Long Run's coming in and they're gonna do a split concert. Half Eagles and half classic kids, that kind of stuff. And Janelle's opening up and we're looking for good turnout.
When was that?
September 6th, Saturday night.
Dara? Justin?
No, I do not.
Let's, review the bills on ordinance 1101.
Thanks,
Hey,
Lauren.
Lauren.
Bye.
See you next time with my 94 pages of reading done.
Yes. Better you than me.
Technically, it was 1%.
40 to 70 is the main part you wanna look at, but everybody look through the registers.
What's health equity?
It's our FSA.
Oh,
No,
They manage it, so we have to pay fees.
What is this ordinance 111?
the bills on the ordinance.
Oh,
Did you make a motion?
Hmm?
Did you make a motion?
no,
Second.
I'll make a motion.
I didn't ask a question.
Okay, yeah, no, we're just it's been moved by Kale to approve the bills on ordinance 101. Second by Justin, all in favor? Then we have executive session to discuss the city clerk applications.
It's for non-elected personnel, is,
Non-elected personnel for review, not review, I guess review of city clerk application, discussion.
yeah. Cause it really is, you're talking about the applications and, yeah.
15 to start, or? I don't know. One?
Hold on a half.
Look at that.
12 minutes, huh?
10 minutes?
10.
10 minutes.
Start at 10, okay.
So until 9,
Coming out at 23.
9:23, yep. All right,
okay.
see you, Sharon.
Wait a minute, who made that motion?
I did.
Moved by Larry, second by Kale, all in favor?
Okay, hold on, see if I can wake this up.
I'll bring it up, and I want to bring it up after that.
We're out of executive session, no decisions were made. Oh, okay. Well, was there a motion to adjourn that? I don't know. Moved by Larry,
Larry, second.
second by Kale, all in favor?